Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So the long awaited Alliance War, the Alliance War that determines pretty much who is most likely going to win the Alliance War season, and that is ASR against Kenob. So ASR has had an amazing season. We have won all of our wars up until now, so we are 9-0 currently. Kenob has had a small slip up. They are at 8 wins, 1 loss, but based on how the points are distributed, basically this war means everything for the race to the first place. And before we get to the rest of the bets, I must say how extremely proud I am of ASR to have done so greatly. And I actually have a lot of fights this war, and I'm not going to speed through any of it because this is a very, very important war, and I want you guys to go through like my thought process and what the happenings and so on and so forth. So by the time I started my path, we were already 1 down, so we didn't have the greatest start. And we knew that every death in this war can mean the difference between winning and losing, because both of our alliances are capable of exploring the maps pretty much deathless, or maybe with 1 or 2 deaths. And it was a lot of pressure to begin with. So there's one thing that I definitely have to point out. I used a ton of boosts. I didn't care. I always boosted to the max, a bunch of 3-minute boosts that are going to be used as well, because wars as big, as serious, as important as this don't quite often come around, and it's as they say, maximum effort and maximum boost this time. So I'm going to be doing part 1s as I typically do in section 1 and 2. I'm going to have some mini boss fights and some more fights along the way as well. So I'm actually going to have quite a bunch of fights. I didn't count them, but if I go through top of my head, I think it's 4 plus another 4, 5, like 11 fights I think this war, or something like that. So a lot of fights. So this is the first one, going up against Dormammu, and they actually threw a massive curveball at us. There is no stubborn global. It is protect that basically protects large and extra large heroes. Now I do not think that it is more, well, bothersome global, but it is definitely a very clever tactic if you think about it, because you haven't actually gotten used to, and you don't know the intricate interactions and the best matchups, because everybody's so focused on stubborn. You don't really have the best experience with this protect. And yeah, so this war there is no stubborn, but large and extra large champions can gain protection that significantly mitigates the damage. Obviously, that also means that Quake is kind of like back in the leading spot as like pretty much the dominant AW champion. And as she proved here with Dormammu, even though he was unblockable at the start of the fight and healing up and all that, none of it mattered. Just went in there, got the job done. Dormammu is down. Now next fight is Annihilus on Masochism node. Now I could have used Quake, but I will use Dr. Doom just for the pure reason that Dr. Doom is such a beastly tank. And if I start with a Power Stat 1 boost, I will be able to nullify his Cosmic Rod immediately. And again, I don't think I would have had any problems with Quake, and I feel extremely confident with Quake. But in this case, it's kind of like more of an issue with which I felt I'm least likely to die, even if I mess up quite significantly. And that would be Dr. Doom on full boost, Mystic Dispersion, maxed out, all that stuff. I didn't really see a way of me dying. With Quake, if you do get caught a couple of times against a rank 3 champion, it could get dicey. But as we can see here, level 1 quickly shoot up to level 3, and that Annihilus is pretty much gone. So he's gonna drop his level 1 here. I'm gonna go into punish, and that's all she wrote. That's like a less than 50-second fight. Dr. Doom absolutely smashes that Annihilus. And another fight that I could have used Quake for, but I'm going with Dr. Doom because I still have the 3-minute boost active, and Dr. Doom is an absolute tank. This war is all about making sure that it's as safe as possible to take any option, any fight that has at least a likely chance to give away the death. Nothing else really matters. How many boosts you use, how many potions you use, or any of that stuff I'm not bothered about. I'm only bothered about not giving away the death, because the war season is at line here and the war is still extremely close. So this has the annoying strike counter fury node, but I am perfectly comfortable with Dr. Doom on this node because you can weave in your heavy attacks, you have access to a lot of special attacks, and you throw special attacks pretty much non-stop. So I'm not too worried about the furies building up. He has gotten to 2 furies or something, but in reality I'm the one who's playing. Corvus is just getting hit, so those furies are not scary at all. And here I have a fury buff active on me. Drop a level 2, the fight is over. Another incredibly quick and easy fight. And I actually initially thought that this will be it for my initial contribution to day 1, but that was not the case. And it's going to be one of the more interesting fights in this war now, where there is this Mix Master Hyperion. Keep in mind, he's a large champion, so he benefits from Protect Global node. He has Aggression Prowess, Mix Master. Protect Global is affecting him as well, and in addition to all of that, he has Power Focus 1, so he's going to be shooting up to 1 bar power extremely quickly. And I'm going in with Warlock, who has class disadvantage, but in this case it's not even that horrible of a deal, because half of the point here is not to hit too hard to trigger that Protect. And considering that I'm boosted relatively heavily, I actually kind of preferred the fact that I'm at class disadvantage and my attacks deal, well, less damage. And Hyperion's special 2 is perfectly kind of like tuned to get around Protect, as well as none of the hits deal particularly large amounts of damage. However, there are a ton of them, right? And here you can see that he's throwing those special attacks extremely loosely. I did have an invulnerability boost active for this war as well, in case he did get stubborn. But for most part, here the main thing to do is play around Mixmaster. Remember what combos you used, remember which hits he will evade, which hits he will not evade, and mitigate that power gain with Warlock's infections and him trying to heal. That is a big reason why I'm trying to get in heavy attacks whenever I can. It's actually a bit harder to get in those heavy attacks than you would think, primarily because he was so level 1 friendly for entire fight. You can see that he just throws them immediately, which is not too bad of a thing, but it also made it a bit trickier to drop in my heavy attacks. However, here the fight is going extremely well. Hasn't been the quickest fight, but all in all, I feel very well in control. I still have my indestructible boost active. I am still like in relatively high window of safety here. And yeah, another heavy attack finishes it off. Took about 2 minutes, but a very stable, very in control fight. I was quite nervous when I was doing this fight. It was also quite late at night for me. It was like about midnight, and I typically don't like fighting that late. And then I just moved on, spent the last of my energy, and that was it. I went to bed. Now, next morning, I do have a whole bunch of fights again. And as I said, typically I would try to kind of like coordinate my fights somewhat better, so I don't have to boost as much. And to be honest, I wouldn't have boosted as heavy had it not been this war against Kenob. They have won like last 10 or 15 Alliance War seasons in a row. So that just shows how dominant that alliance is and has been in Alliance War. And it's still very close. It's still very tight war. And every death counts. Right. So here, Invisible Woman and this Burden of Might and EMP modification. And it's just going to be a standard Quake fight. I have a reasonably large amount of boosts active on me as well. You can see that I do still have that perfect yellow bar. I didn't take any damage, not even any chip damage in the first fight against Dormammu. And I will not take any damage in this fight either. Whenever you can fully Quake and, heavy in Dex, I feel so much more comfortable with Quake. But for some fights later on, I will actually abandon that for some other reasons, which I'm going to explain in a bit. But here, Invisible Woman, she's going down quite steadily. 4 minutes left in the fight, so 1 minute has expired. She's at 20% health. Now, she is a rank 3 6-star, so she is quite a chunky lady. But at the end of the day, just an Invisible Woman, and Quake shows her who's the real boss here. And yeah, last set of aftershocks kicks in. Done deal. Not much to worry about. We can move on to the next fights. So as I said, back to path 1. And this is going to be a Nova. Now, actually, for a while, I was contemplating quaking this guy as well. But then I figured, since I do have the Dr. Doom in, why not use it? Like a year ago, I would have 100% quaked this fight, because I know Quake can do it. And any fight where Nova is not immune to ability accuracy reduction or debuff immune, you can Quake, because he will not gain power as he's dashing in at you. But in this case, again, I was just thinking which champion I have the least likelihood of dying, even if I do mess up, even if I do slip up. And that is Dr. Doom. Because he's so tanky, because he has class advantage, because he can power drain, nullify his buffs and all that other good stuff. Even if I happen to mess up like I did here, I can get this done so much more safer, with so much more confidence. And that's why Dr. Doom, as we can see, he's having an easy time with that Nova. Get to my level 3 without much hassle. He's already halfway down. And that level 3 is gonna inflict even more damage, and the fight is gonna be over extremely shortly after. Dr. Doom is the most popular Alliance War attacker for a reason. If you guys haven't seen those video series, by the way, check it out. I have started recording Alliance War offensive data for tier 1, where I basically record all of the champions that are being used in my Alliance Wars. So I record champions from my team, from opponent's team, and from that we extrapolate which are the most popular Alliance War attackers in tier 1. But anyways, off to the next fight, and that is Man-Thing over here. And this Man-Thing has buffet node active, but there is another reason why I didn't want to even consider triggering any buffs. So first thing, obviously buffet node. If I were to dex now, he would heal up and that would make the fight longer. The second thing is, if I have a buff on me and Man-Thing makes contact with Quake, there is a chance that Man-Thing will nullify that buff and place a poison and armor break on me, which I wanted to avoid. And both of those things would trigger Mystic Dispersion, and I didn't want to check whether Man-Thing has been placed with max Mystic Dispersion, and that could potentially let Man-Thing get to a level 1, and it just seemed like a riskier play in this case. And again, I would just want it to be as safe as possible, and that's why I'm playing this entire fight without triggering a single buff. That was the main idea. Don't even want to trigger dexterity once. I don't want anything else to happen. I'm just gonna finish the fight without triggering dexterity a single time. Therefore, there will be no chance to trigger buffet. There will be no chance for Man-Thing to nullify any buffs. There will be no chance for Mystic Dispersion to work. And it worked perfectly. It was very solid, very smooth. Quake fight. It did take some block damage, but it was hardly relevant. And I'm straight off to my next fight. The next fight is Juggernaut. Again, keep in mind, he has the protection node active. There is a strike counter node here. There's also a buffet node once again. And just like in the previous fight, I'm going to use exactly the same tactic. I'm not going to trigger a single buff on me, because I don't want to trigger buffet. I don't want to trigger Mystic Dispersion. I don't want any of that stuff to happen. And I'm just playing it with kind of like max safety in mind. Because in this case, even if I mess up, I still haven't had a buff on me. Therefore, if I let the heavy go, the buff won't expire. I will not re-trigger buffet. Even if he hits me, it's unlikely that he's going to get to a bar of power, and I will not be getting a buff from him striking me. So this seemed by far the safest route in the circumstance that I do happen to make a mistake with Quake, which doesn't happen often, but still does happen. You always have to account for worst case scenarios. And again, slightly over a minute with that class advantage with everything else. The Quake does what the Quake does, and we're done here. Right, so now we are already closing in towards the end of the war. I still have 2 fights left, and there are 2 last of the mini bosses that we have active here. I will once again, so this is quite significantly later, apply the max boost again. This war didn't cost me anything in terms of potions. I actually haven't used any potions at all in this war because I didn't make any silly mistakes. I didn't get clipped, but I did boost quite a bunch, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't mind. Again, I could have played more savvy, more organized. I could have probably saved myself a set of boosts, but I don't care. This is such an important war that it really does seem irrelevant. And yeah, so now we're going to be going up against this Mysterio. This Mysterio has like unblockable special ones, plus like power focus one, I believe, and some other bunch of stuff. But that's about it, right? So he's still prime for quaking, even though he's immune to ability accuracy modification. Quake still works, Quake still evades, and Mysterio is only a tricky defender when he's able to throw his special attacks. That's literally the only thing about him. He cannot be punished after level 1. He is very hard and risky to punish after level 2s if you do not have miss counter mechanics. And other than that, only other kind of like thing that makes Mysterio an annoying champion to fight against is how random he throws his heavy attacks. But none of that really matters when you use Quake, and that is why Quake is such an amazing champion. And yeah, even though this Mysterio is definitely stacked, Quake is Quake. Quake does the job that she's meant to do very safely, very effectively. We can see that the minute in the fight, he's already halfway down. We are building up more and more of these aftershock charges. And yeah, the fight is slowly but surely coming to an end. Again, I didn't want to speed up any of the fights, and I know this will be a long Alliance War video. So if you hate watching Quake fights, you can be free to forward them. But for me personally, I thought I would be doing disservice to the magnitude of this war, at least the way I had this war built up in my head, if I skip through anything else, because Kenobi are excellent Alliance War Alliance, and again, I'm just so proud of ASR for how well we are doing this season. And here we're closing into 2-minute mark, but we should be able to finish out the fight just under 2 minutes, which is perfect. Means that the invulnerability boost that I did apply before this fight will still carry on to the Havoc fight, which was the main reason of applying it. However, I do make a crucial, horrible mistake right now. I jumped straight into the fight and I hadn't applied my tech power boost. Now, the plan for this fight was always for me to use tech power boost to get to my level 2s quicker and basically just deal more damage and maintain more infections. And I would have had much easier time in this fight had I had tech power boost active. But as soon as I entered the fight, I had like immediate sense of regret, and I was a bit shook. So I wasn't maybe thinking straight. Maybe this fight isn't as perfect as it should have been. I definitely should have dropped more heavy attacks as well, just to make sure he has a debuff on him so I can power drain him more. But that, again, didn't quite seem to correlate in my brain with this fight as well as it should have. And it's still definitely a winnable fight. This is also a fight that gets increasingly harder and harder as the longer it goes on because of Aspect of Evolution. Any and all block damage I'm taking is getting bigger and bigger because he gains more block penetration. At this point, I can already forget about landing a single crit for the rest of the fight pretty much, because Aspect of Evolution significantly increases his crit resistance. So I'm dealing less and less damage. He's dealing more and more damage. He's gaining more and more power. And this fight is just getting harder and harder. And I'm trying my best to maintain calm, to watch his power bars, to kind of like not make a mistake, not get parried, not eat that level 2. I see him at 29%. I know I can do this. This has to be done. The war has to be finished. And I certainly didn't want to be the guy who lets my alliance down and possibly costs us the war and the first place in season. But here you can see that nearly 2 minutes in, the fight is over, finally. So I didn't mess up. I finished it very decently, didn't get hit at all, and that is last for me. There's only a boss fight left pretty much at this point. And yes, we did win the war. So we won against Kenobi. The war wasn't the smoothest for either of the alliances. Again, it's a great honor to fight against Kenobi. They have won like a whole bunch of Alliance War seasons. I don't think they had the best war. I do think that they had a rushed or a bad start, and that kind of ultimately was the difference, and that's why ASR won. But nonetheless, I'm extremely proud of ASR for going 10-0 so far in the season. Great job to Kenobi as well. I hope they finish well for the rest of the season. But yeah, so far ASR is 10-0, and we are 2 wars away from actually closing out the season. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can keep the streak going and finish strong in the first place. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Again, my apologies for it being so long. And if you did enjoy today's video, then definitely hit the like button, hit that sub button, hit all the other buttons, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about